Hello, everyone. How is it going? How was your week? Did you sail? How was it, if you did? Um, we're just getting set up here for the Sunday live coaching. Let's see. We can write, hello from Hamburg. Did you sail this week? It's getting to be cold in Europe, but I know that other locations around the world are just starting to turn on. And so some of you guys might be having the best weeks of your year. I know that the Southern Hemisphere, depending where you are, is starting to turn on. Maui, in some ways, has been on, but continues to be on. Maui starts late September, early October, and goes for a while. Jorg, how's it going? Hans, nice. How was the sailing in the Netherlands with your wife? Was it cold? What was it like? What size? Dom. Good to see everyone showing up. It's cold and wintry in Hamburg. It was snowing all day. I've got my scarf on. My nose is kind of congested from the cold air, but everything is good. John, Charles, Carl. Cool, Jorg. I'm stoked that you had a great session. Yeah, John, I know what you mean with it being too cold. I can handle the cold sometimes not. Dom had a good session. That's nice to see. Cool. Did you get any footage? That sounds like an epic session. Hey, Charlie, Mr. Steen. Nice. Edwin. Hello. Good to see you guys showing up. We've got Matt. We've got a lot of posts in the group. I've been super busy, so I don't know how much I've responded to, but I've tried to read everything that's been posted, and we've got a lot of great topics coming up. So this is going to be a good live stream. I'll try and kind of go through it quickly because we've got a lot to go over. So if you guys need me, if you guys need me to slow down, just say so. As always, the chat rules everything. You guys that are showing up here can guide the coaching, guide what we're talking about. So I'll go through what's posted in the Facebook group. If there's anything you want me to spend more time on or something else, just let me know in the chat. Like I said, we've got a lot of great topics to go over. Leon, nice to see you. Leon, sorry to hear about your twisted foot from an over-rotated front loop. That sounds painful. Have you seen a doctor? I really recommend good physiotherapists. I've had some injuries in windsurfing, especially lately with my knee, and I found that working with a good physiotherapist is amazing, life-changing. So I really recommend it if you are injured to go see a good physio. You want to make sure that you're with a physio who works with athletes, not with old people. I find that there's that distinction between physiotherapists. So you want a physio that works with athletes, preferably top athletes. Ragnar, -5 degrees. Ouch, that sounds cold. All right, so we've got a great group here. So I want to just jump into it. We've got, like I said, a lot of things posted. I'm a little bit congested, so my voice sounds a little bit different. Pardon me. I hope you can still hear me fine. We've got good setup. I'm just going to start going through the group just like we always do. All right. So Francesco asks about catching waves. So this is a good question. We see a lot of clips with fantastic riders doing solid bottom turns and aggressive cutbacks, but we don't see what we really need, which is how to catch a wave. Personally, I think that the most difficult thing in European conditions, where the waves aren't so clean and readable, is timing and chasing the waves. So in a session, a Sunday rider like me rides 5 or 6 waves. What do you think about? Do we need to focus more on wave riding or on catching the wave when we see instructional videos? This is a great point, and it's one of the things that I keep coming back to, which is that the fundamentals are so important. Wave selection, timing, and placement. And wave selection, which is what you're talking about, and also placement, because where you're catching the wave really matters, are so important. And these are topics that we've gone over before, and I want to throw this to the chat because I think we've got a lot of experts in the chat who have been working on this over the last couple of years and have made a lot of progress. I'm looking at Ragnar, I'm looking at Edwin, Dom, Thomas, Carl. We've gone over this in the coaching about wave selection, and they'll have some tips. And I open it up to everyone, anyone who's got some tips. I want to hear your tips for Francesco while I sort of say what I think is interesting. Hey, Owen. So first of all, with wave selection, it is really important. And you can make your wave selection easier by working on your tacks and jibes. So the better you can turn around, the quicker you can turn around, the easier it is to get on whatever swell you want to get on, right? So put in the effort, put in the work when the conditions are marginal, when it's blowing 12 knots and flat, go out and work on your tacks. In our coaching masterclass in Denmark this summer, we had a lot of these marginal days, and we put the time in working on the tacks. And it's something that I think is not very fun and people don't like to do, but it really pays off, because once you get those tacks consistent, then you can really improve your wave selection, because you can turn around whenever you want. Hey, Max. Hey, Nicolas. So the first thing is really hitting those transitions. I can start making a list if you guys want a visual. Brian. All right, so wave selection. Let's make a little list. So first is work on tacks and jibes. That's the American spelling of jibes for all the Brits who are freaking out that I spelt it totally wrong. Brian, nice to see you. Okay, so the better you turn around, the easier it is to catch waves. Second is awareness. So once you start having awareness of swell directions, swell height, swell speed, swell steepness, swell color, all of these are factors in choosing waves. So for example, about color, if you start paying attention, some spots you'll notice that waves that are a darker shade of blue are going to have more power, and that's because they're standing up more, so the light is refracting differently through them. You generally want to avoid whitewater waves, so the waves that are white, they're hard to read, they've got air in them. Avoid whitewater waves. Generally, you want steeper swells, so swells that are really slopey on the outside tend to not break very well when they come in. And then the direction that the waves are coming in. So in some spots, you really want to have, waves that are coming from this direction, but maybe it's a lot easier to see these waves, and so you end up catching these waves, but they don't break as well. A spot that is like that is Cabezo in Tenerife. So a lot of the times when you're looking upwind, you see the swells, but then they end up kind of running away from you. And you actually want the swells that sort of look more like a V. So they're coming in kind of like this rather than a single line in Cabezo, and those are the swells that work best. And every spot has its own idiosyncrasies. And so you have to learn wave selection for each spot. And there's some of these heuristics that can help you out. Another thing that we're going to throw in here is follow a better sailor. So this works if it's not too crowded, where you just shadow someone who's better than you, someone that is catching good waves. Don't catch their wave, but catch the one behind it. Pay attention to where they're setting up, where they're catching the waves. And this is something that I do. It's something that other pros do. It's something that everyone can do in whichever spot they're sailing, because there are going to be people who are better at catching waves, right? They know the spot better. They're in the right place. And so just follow them, right? Just follow them, take the wave behind. And even if you're missing out on the waves because maybe there's more than one person and so they're catching all the waves. If you're still in that rhythm with them, you're going to be learning about it, paying attention. And so you might get some sort of the last waves of the set, which are not very good, but you'll get better at the skill of selecting waves for that particular spot. Another heuristic is you want to make sure that you're not going out through the big whitewaters. So a lot of times for the different spots, unless it's really stormy, you've got some kind of set rhythm. And if you're going out when the waves are big, one, that's harder to go out because they're going to break on you and you've got to get over the whitewaters. And two, then you're out of rhythm. So if you're going out and there are waves, big waves like a set, just turn around, come back in, and go out again as if you've just ridden one of those waves. And that can help you get into the rhythm of the sets. Rhythm is very important. This is something that comes up in surfing competitions, windsurfing competitions, and everyone's freesailing sessions. So rhythm matters. All right, so these are some big points. There are so many things to look at. I want to go to the chat and see what people are saying. So Hans is saying, starting in the wave often ends up so if it's a short wave, he wants to enter the bottom turn upwind of the peak. Makes sense. Tamaz, good to see you. Has some proper winter conditions. Nice. Edwin saying, watch better sailors. Caro saying the same thing. I second that. I do that myself. I go to a new spot, wherever it is, even spots that I've been to a lot. I really pay attention. So when I'm in Cabezo, I really pay attention where Danny Brook and these certain local guys that I like watching how they ride the waves. I'm really checking out where they're catching waves. And it really helps me to make sure that I'm in the right spot, in the right rhythm. All right. Leon suggested some good videos. Ragnar has some good suggestions. Do not select the first wave. Yep. Look for clean, glassy water. That's another good heuristic. That's when the surface tension is pulling the wave smooth. Which is a clean space for you to do the turn. It also means that there's more power there. Then Ragnar saying, imagine where the wave will break. Also helpful tip. Hey, Jeff. Nice to hear that you're down in Cape Town. I hope you have a good, safe time and lots of wind, lots of waves. Carl saying, time on the water, watching others, spatial awareness, knowing where you are relative to the waves. Yeah, great from everyone. There's a lot of answers here as well. We've got some great stuff. Francesco, I'll try and post some video. I have some video that I've posted before. And I've got some video as well on my YouTube channel. There's one of my clips. It's like my favorite clip ever that I've made. Even though it's not a very, it's not very radical, but this clip, I've got all my live streams getting in the way. I'll post it in the chat. It's the one it's just one long shot. It's like 4 minutes or 5 minutes or something out at Hokipa. It's this one. And let's see. So I think this has me catching, 2 different waves. And so you can see a little bit what it looks like at Hokipa. Hey, Rich. So I'll just post that in the chat for anyone who's curious. It's an uncut shot, which is why I post it, like 4 or 5 minutes. You can see me going out, catching 2 different waves, which is a little bit relevant because I think part of Francesco's point is that catching waves isn't something that's shown in the videos. I'll try and find some other video as well that we can post. But I think we've got a lot of great answers for everyone, where to start in the chat, in the group. So let's move on. All right, Rory says, people always associate the windsurfing-surfing mix with epic down-the-line conditions, but there's something to be said for what's made possible in bang onshore wind and crappy waves. I've been really loving switching it up lately. What does everyone else think about onshore conditions? So this is a great question, Rory. Thank you very much. I put it to you guys in the chat. I know we've got a lot of good answers here in the group, but All right, Rich, I'll find your post. I'll find your answer. I want to see what everyone else thinks as well. So if you're in the chat and you haven't answered this post, what do you think about going backside? I'll let you guys think about it for a second before I give my answer. I'll read some of these and then I'll say what I think. Max says, I really like that backside turn, very powerful, from Rory's footage. Let's watch the footage. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Oh. Can we make it bigger without going full screen? So you guys might not be able to see this here. Oops. I hope you guys can see that. Let me know if I need to change the screen. Rory, next time you upload, crop the footage a little bit so it's not this vertical format. Nice backside turn surfing. Right now we got the windsurfing turn. Yeah, I like it. Getting some power in there. One thing I want to see you work on, Rory, is keeping your speed out of the turn. So whenever I'm judging windsurfing, whether it's of myself or other people, there are a few different factors that I'm looking at in each turn, like how critical it is, which this is critical section of the wave, great. How fast it is, how much rail engagement there is, but also about the speed out of it. And doing a turn where you stop is not as good as a turn where you keep your speed through. So Rory, that's what I would say you need to work on. Beautiful turn, beautiful power. I think if you just keep your weight a little bit forward through the turn, you'll be able to carry that speed and dynamicism from the turn through. So you'll be able to keep your speed because you kind of stand up a bit at the end and that sort of stops you, puts the brakes on. But looks nice. I like it. I like where you're going. All right, so chat, tell me, what do you think about going backside? Paul says, onshore can be a lot of fun. You have to work to get Max out of the situation, but can be really good. He posted a video from his local beach, which is cool to see. Yeah, some backside riding. Ooh, -2 degrees, cold. Yeah, looks fun. Tavi posted some onshore sailing. Carl says he likes it. Rich, I don't see your answer. I guess I need to refresh my page. Yeah, let me just quickly refresh the page. And I'll tell you what I think about going backside. So I think going backside is really great. It's something I love in windsurfing. I find really fun. I think it's a wonderful learning tool. Rich, maybe you meant from Francesco's post. It's a wonderful learning tool to go backside. Because it's a little bit easier sometimes to see what's happening in the wave, especially for European conditions. And so you can learn a lot about aerials, you can learn a lot about turns, you can learn a lot about flow and timing, all of the above by going backside. So I think you should really put the time in. Backside riding is a wonderful thing to do. It also can really help set you up with your frontside turns. So definitely am into it. Backside riding is a big plus. I find it really, really fun. And I really like trying to get the timing right and getting the off the lips, getting the rail engagement. It's definitely fun. I'm always hesitant to try and pull up footage when I don't have it prepared. But I have some backside footage. Let me see if it shows up. I had some video that Victor Fernandez filmed of me from Maui. No, all right, I'll have to hunt it down. I'm not sure where it is. All right, moving on. Mark. So we've been following Mark's progress with his wave riding. And let's see the latest. So nice timing, Mark. Really hitting the section. I like to see that. I know that was something you've been working on. So you fall here. And so your question is why you're falling. And from this angle, it's a little bit hard to see exactly what's going on. But there are a few things that I see. It looks like you're kind of pulling yourself into the sail and into the boom. And with the cutback, you really want to be hanging from the boom, kind of hanging away from the equipment. Hey, Eric. Thomas says reverse, grubby on the wave. Those are cool. I like the reverses, like the grubbies on the wave. Thomas wants to see more switch forwards. Those sound radical. What's the name for the switch forward? The tomahawk or T-bone or something? T-bone, right? Rich is saying more weight on the front foot. Possibly. I think just getting away from the equipment will make a big difference. So being just so close to the gear, sort of hugging the boom, pulling the sail to you is not what you want to do. So you really want to be extended, be hanging from the gear, hanging from the boom, pushing it away from you, really opening up the clue, especially in these onshore conditions, not pulling it in, because then you get backwinded, which is what happens here, and you fall down on your back. So really pushing the sail up and really getting your butt down and hanging from the gear, really getting low and making space between you and the sail. You don't want to be close to it. You don't want to be hugging it. You don't want to be holding it. So I think that's the biggest thing that I would work on, is just making sure that you're hanging from the gear. And let me see. I've got a hard drive here. I've got footage from Denmark. I don't know if I've got the right cable. Yeah, I can get the right cable. Hold on, I'm just gonna get the cable, and then that way we can I can pull up some footage. So it's always useful to have some footage, and I can show you a little bit what I mean. So hopefully this works. Where's our Finder tab? All right, so I wasn't planning to show any of my own footage, so that's why I'm not really ready for it, but this should work, and we can look at it together. So here's the last day. So this is from our clinic in Denmark, which is somewhat onshore conditions. There's a little backside carve. Again, just trying to stay active on the wave, trying to keep my speed. Sometimes when the wave is taking a while to set up, you can get a bit bored or get a bit antsy and then go too early. And I try to avoid that by getting in some of these little turns beforehand. But then this wave kind of doesn't really shape up into anything. So again, kind of a different style of turn. Not really. There's a backside, just really fitting it into the ride. Again, this is just random footage. Okay, here's one that's kind of similar. I mean, it's not really that similar, and it's also not a great turn from me, but it shows what I mean by kind of hanging from the boom and hanging from the rig, creating space between the body and the sail, and really pushing the sail out, which is with the clue, which is really important in onshore conditions. I mean, this is not amazing footage. It's just what I have from onshore that's accessible. Again, really sheeting out, creating some distance between the sail and the body. Ugh, that was kind of a weird turn. This footage is not great. All right, let's see, one more. Okay, here's another one. Again, pushing out with that backhand, really pushing out with that backhand and creating space, getting the butt low. And that helps just to allow the board and the rig capture that energy from the wave, keep the speed. Yeah, I'm not sure if we've got one more. Yeah, let's do one more. A little clue first ride, which is something else I really recommend doing. You know, just going clue first. Going clue first is a really great exercise to do, especially in onshore conditions. It teaches you a lot about the power of the wave. It shows you a different way to approach a wave. So going clue first is great. Thanks, Eric. Anyway, Mark, I hope that's clear. I think you've got some good things to work on. I think really pushing that backhand out and really making some space between you and the rig, I think will really help. This is a cool post from Carl about stretching. And this is something I definitely notice, you know, as I get older, I feel like I need to take better and better care of my body. It's not just about, you know, doing my running or cycling to keep my cardiovascular fitness. I've got to do other things to make sure that, you know, my tendons and ligaments are loose and working for me rather than against me. And so this is really cool. I'm not familiar with this book, and I'll check it out. One book that I liked, what is it called? Let me see. I've got it in my Amazon or my Kindle. I'm not logged in on my phone. It's anyway, I'll find it and post it. It's about, let me see if I can find it. I think something like core exercises for cyclists, which has stretches and core exercises. Yeah, Core Advantage. So this is a book that I've found useful for me. You know, I came across this a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. And so I don't follow it fully now, but I still do some of what's taught in this book. And I found it really useful at the time. So Core Advantage, here it is. That's another book that can be useful. And I'm going to get a copy of this Bob Anderson book. Thanks for the recommendation, Carl. If you guys have any other recommendations for stretching or fitness, I'd love to hear them. So post it in the group, post it in the chat. And yeah, because taking care of the body is really important if we want to perform at a high level in windsurfing, and especially as we get older. All right, Juso asks about the Downwind 360, and this was something that we already talked about in one of our past live streams. So just following up, Juso says, thank you for all the tips. He was able to make one and still practicing the move. Now have a good feeling for what the carving should feel like. The body weight forward, trying to twist around the mast. It's a wicked feeling when we get the rail to engage properly. Great news. Let us know how your progress goes, Juso. I love to hear it. Hans also posted a video of a carving 360. Looks super nice. In control, speed, come out of it. Exactly how it should be done. Nice. And you can see that he's really pushing the sail back towards the tail of the board and leaning forward. And that is very key for this move. So this is a great video example of what to do. Thank you for that, Hans. All right. I was curious a couple of days ago whether December, January, or February are months that include a lot of windsurfing for you or not. You know, I know that some people, their season's just starting. Other people are putting the gear away and pulling out the skis, and they're not going to bring out the windsurfing gear until April. So it's interesting to see what everyone's doing. I try to windsurf all year round, and if I'm not in a place that allows that, I try to travel to go somewhere that has wind. In Europe, it can be cold in the north, but if you have good rubber, then you can handle the cold. And then the Canary Islands are also really good in the winter. And with COVID, now everything's more difficult with traveling, but it used to be that you could get some pretty easy, cheap flights and could go for a couple of weeks of really good windsurfing in the winter, even if you didn't like the cold water sailing that's available elsewhere. So a lot of good answers here. I enjoyed reading these. Thank you everyone for responding. All right, we got a question from Holgar about this example. Would you please be so kind to upload the video to YouTube as well? Yes, I can put this video on YouTube. This will also be part of my Learn to Loop course. So we did the first Learn to Loop course in the spring, starting in the spring, and we've got to finish that course up. It's been kind of going on for a long time. We've got to do the graduation, and then I'm going to do a second one. I'm going to revise the course material with everything I learned from the beta version and release that second course. Information about that will be sometime in the next month, and I can put some of that material on YouTube as well, but not everything, but I can put some of it on YouTube, no problem. So Juso asked another question. He can tack 95% of the time. What he does in light wind is keeps the body weight over the board, slow board to a halt, nose pointing to the wind, make sure that the weight and the sail and the board are all in the right spot, then jump to the new side. The problem is that this prep for the transition is slow. This translates poorly to smaller boards and higher wind because I cannot wait for the board to stop. It sinks. Now I can practice in planing conditions and smaller boards. What is the next thing to work on? Transition as soon as possible while the board is still planing. Practice leaning onto the back-winded sail when on the new side. Are there any good drills to practice? So these are all good things to do. While the board is still moving, it's going to be easier to balance, right? And so especially when the conditions are light, you want to have a little bit of movement to make it easier for you. And then also leaning onto the sail to back-winded is a great skill to have because that will save you a lot of the time because it just makes it easy to balance, or you can catch yourself with the sail by doing that practice. Hey Alberto. So I definitely recommend both of those things. I've talked a lot about tacks before, and so I'm sure you can find that in some of the past live streams. But one of there are a few big concepts. One is I talk about opening and closing the door. So you want to move the sail towards the back of the board, and that creates space for you to go around the front of the mast. And then once you're going around, you want to bring the sail across to you. So one thing I notice is there's a school of tacks where you reach across to grab the sail on the new side. I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to bring the sail to you. And I think that's easier to balance. It's easier with what's going on with the sail. I'm not sure if that distinction is easy, just talking about it. Maybe some of you guys in the chat have some advice. I know there's some expert tackers and people who have been working on their tacks. I don't know if Ragnar is still in the group, but he was working on his tacks in Tenerife and started making some really great ones on his short boards. So that's a good place to start. We've got some other good advice here, and there's a lot again that I've already talked about with tacks that's in the directory that Dom has been so kindly updating, and I'm gonna put those Dom's descriptions onto each YouTube video as well. I still have yet to do that, but that's something that I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll do that tonight. H, good to see you. It's been a while. So the question is, in high wind, overpowered conditions, is it okay to plant less rail in jibes? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, the point of jibing, if you're sailing in the waves, is to turn around. And so you can do that with rail engagement or without rail engagement. And it's whatever gets you turned around most effectively. So whether you're doing that with a carve or without, Yeah, Ragnar says also that you post a film on tack training on Facebook. I think Ragnar, that's what you're referring to, right? He made a video from our time in Tenerife. I think it's like 20 minutes long, which is a great resource. So that's cool to check out. So H, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, the jibe is about getting turned around. So use the rail or not, it's just get back around. And if it's super windy, sometimes you're doing more of a slam jibe rather than a really carvy jibe. That's fine. Sometimes when it's really windy and you're overpowered, it's also hard in the bottom turn to keep everything engaged because it's hard to really pull against everything that you've got going on with the wind in the sail. And that can be difficult because with the bottom turn, you do want to have the rail engaged. But when it's windy, you can kind of cheat a bit and use the power of the wind rather than the power of the rail. All right, we got a post about wetsuits from Cell. He's got just some advice about gloves. A lot of good discussion here. I'm not an expert at all about gloves. So these comments are what I would look to if you want advice. We've got a lot of experienced people here. All right, Owen with a post. Some of these are wave riding clips from Cape Town. He's got some points that he says, let's read these points before we watch the footage. No more underarm grip, more arm movement, the bottom turn, mass more to the nose, better wave selection timing, use sunblock on the head. So I like this turn. These are all great tips, Owen, that you've coached yourself. Putting the overhand grip will make a difference. One thing I noticed that you didn't say, and this has already come up today, is on your cutback, you don't want to pull the sail to you. You don't want to do a pull up. You don't want to do this row movement. You really want to be hanging from the sail. So like in the beginning here, you're really hanging from the sail, and that's great. And you can actually keep hanging a little bit longer. You don't need to then pull yourself into the sail, because what happens is when you pull yourself up, you're really stopping the turn because you're then coming off the rail. So you can stay longer on the rail, longer on the turn, hang from the sail and feel that board engage. You're getting great engagement with the rail. You can stay on it a little bit longer. So that turn looked good. You were a little bit more longer engaged. You're turning your hips into the turn. There's a lot that we like to see. I think getting that front hand on the overhand grip will give you a lot better control of the rig, everything that's going on. Another thing that I recommend doing, which I've talked about before, and I guess I need to make a video on this. Let me make the note here. So I've got to post some forward loop exercises to YouTube, and then some leg exercises. So it looks like, Owen, that if you had stronger glutes and we're working a bit more on your leg strength, you would have more confidence in your bottom turns and be able to put more power into those turns, because it looks like your legs are wobbling just a little bit because you're pressing so hard, and I can see that your knees are kind of wobbling in and out. And if you do the leg exercises that I recommend doing, which are pretty simple, it's something we do on all our clinics. So I got to ask, that we've got a lot of people here in the chat who have been on the master classes. Are you still doing the exercises? And if you are still doing them, do you notice a difference? Because obviously when you do it for a week, it's one thing, but if you do it for a month or more, a series of months, then you obviously notice bigger improvements. But this is a very clear example of where having those muscles and that muscular awareness will really help with your confidence, with your power, the transition of your body's power to the rail. And also I think it's safer too. You're less likely to get injured So, I can see like the knees kind of moving, wobbling in and out, and having really strong glutes help avoid that. And so it's hard for me to, at the moment, to show the exercises. So that's a video that I've got to do. There's also some training that you can take part of. PP does some online training. We've got some of the members of the group are also part of his training. I can post a link to that as well. And he's got some other exercises that also are working on the glutes. You could also just Google glute exercises, glute activations, which will help. And then as well doing things like lunges and squats. Squats are always good, but I like the lunges because they also are working on your stability. And other exercise called the forward T, where you're folding with your knee bent, and then you're folding with your upper body. And I've got some stuff that I filmed from that I'll post in the group, and I'll try and film some new stuff. I'm always hesitant to post my own stuff because I'm not a fitness trainer, so I'm just showing you what I can do. I'm not a licensed therapist or trainer or whatever. I've had a lot of training, and so I know a bit about form and technique and what to do just from all the training that I've had. So anyway, Owen, those are two big things to work on. One, in addition to everything else that you said to work on, which are great, is really hanging from the gear on your cutback. This is a big one. This is one that gets a lot of people. You really want to get that hang on the cutback. It's a relaxed feeling. You're kind of creating separation between you and the gear. You don't have to really pull on it. And then doing those exercises for your glutes, doing lunges will really help. And you'll notice a big difference. And it's not like a huge, like doing these exercises, it's not a huge thing. It takes 5 to 10 minutes a day. You notice a big difference. All right, we've got a competition, which we already talked about in the last live stream. So Mark, who was trying to get more of the high impact high five, posted a video of using some of these advices, and I really see the difference. Mark, you're aiming a lot higher on the whitewater. It's great. You're getting a lot more projection. Yeah, I love it. So that's great. I think that I want to see you do another few sessions with the same goal, and I think you'll get a bit more relaxed with it and figure out the timing a little bit better, because you're just a little bit off on a few of these clips. But I think this is something that you'll figure out just the more that you do it. And I think you're really getting the right sort of focus for where you're aiming. So this looks like a big improvement, and I'm stoked to see it. All right, this is an older post. All right, Vincent says, when doing a forward loop, what makes it more of a spin loop rather than an end over end? Is it the angle of the wind or the amount that you throw the sail forward and how hard to pull in? He wants to start going for them, but prefer to spin at the start for safety. Yeah, so I definitely think if you're learning to loop, you should learn spin loops. Killer loops are definitely out of style. Like, for example, if you do a killer loop in a competition, it's not going to be scored very highly because it's seen as out of control. And, some people really disagree with that and they love killer loops. And that's fine. And there's a killer loop sequence that Neil's posted in here that's totally insane, and I love it, which I wouldn't recommend anyone to do because the risk of injury is high, whereas with a normal forward loop, actually risk of injury is really low. And so just to answer the question before we get into the sequence, the main thing with going to go more horizontal, it's that wide grip on the boom, looking back with the head, so like over the shoulder, rather than looking forward. You definitely don't want to look forward if you want to spin. And then it's this twist with the body rather than the somersault going forward. So it's, if I'm trying to loop this way, I'm really twisting with the body. I'm not throwing myself forward, right? A spin loop is not a somersault. But that said, this sequence is pretty sick. So can you guys see this? Let me make my window a little bit smaller to make sure you can see the whole sequence. So look look at this. So gets up into the air and then just starts leaning forward. And then look at the next sequence. It's really a front flip. Like, I would say that this is not even a forward loop anymore. This is almost its own move, which I guess is a killer loop. But this is gnarly. This is full end over end. And this has no similarity to a spin loop. Like, the technique is completely different. And loops like this are so radical. Like, can you see this? I'm not sure if that's in the whole window. But this is such a radical loop sequence that Neil's posted. But if this goes wrong, and it can go wrong in any of these steps, you're looking at a lot of pain, right? If it goes wrong here, you're landing on your face in the gear. If it goes wrong here, you're landing with the mast in the water and you're slapping your back or breaking the mast. If it goes wrong here, you're landing too flat on the board and you're breaking the board or hurting your legs. So it can go, like, all of these steps can go wrong, and each of these steps can go wrong really badly, but it's super radical and I'd love to see it. And so this is not a jump that I would recommend anyone to do, but if it's something that you want to take on, yeah, go for it. If you're already doing it, more power to you. I mean, that's pretty sick. So mad respect to whoever this is. Niels, I don't know if you posted who this is, but this is gnarly. But it's not what I recommend, especially not if you're just getting into jumps. You know, there's a lot of risk in something like this, and it's not something you see very often. It's kind of out of control, but yeah, it's pretty radical. So mad respect. But in terms of like, what's the difference? The difference is between like just, I don't know, hucking yourself off a cliff and doing a dive or something off of a springboard and doing some flips and spins. You know, one takes a lot of just like balls and raw control, and the other takes technique and awareness. He does say the surfer is Sigurd. Yeah, gnarly. This one's so gnarly. Yeah, is that Sigurd from Hamburg? Caro? That's gnarly. I didn't know he did killer loops like this. Is he okay? Oh man, it's a gnarly loop. But again, this is not something that I recommend doing. So Jeff, you want to learn cheese rolls. Are you doing forwards? I can't remember if you're doing forwards or not. Can you remind me if you're doing forwards? I think you are. I think we had this conversation in Tenerife. You were telling me about learning forwards, and you learned it a little bit later in windsurfing. You were surprised that you were able to do it, and then now you're doing forwards. Is that right? I'm remembering that conversation right from Tenerife? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I would recommend learning the forward before the cheese roll for anyone else, which is why I asked Jeff. And it's pretty similar to the forward, except instead of throwing the rig forward and twisting, you're really throwing the rig back, like towards the tail of the board. Let me see. I know I have some video. Can I find it? Is the question. It's probably on one of my hard drives. I've got to search the video of me, but I can probably find one on Continent 7. So let's see. I want to have a video just to show you for reference. But basically what you're doing is, instead of going like this, you're going like this. And so you're throwing the sail. So Jeff, can you see what I'm doing? So instead of doing a normal forward where you're like this, you're going like this. And so you're still looking back, but you're pulling the sail in, kind of similar to the feeling like when you're doing a carving 360, where you pull the sail in into your shins. You're really pushing it down with your front hand and towards the tail. So you're really pushing down and towards the tail with the front hand, and then sheeting in with the backhand. And the sheeting in with the backhand is less critical than it is with the forward, but getting that front hand motion is really important. And it's a nice, oh, I spelled that wrong. It's a nice move to do. All right, cheese roll. Let's see if we can find one. Lots of one-handed ones. So let's find one that's a little bit bigger. Excuse me. All right, so here's a cheese roll from Victor. This is probably a good one. Yeah, so this is just a really simple cheese roll. And so the difference with the forward is it's just all about the initiation. You can take off more upwind. So actually you don't want to take off going downwind. You can take off kind of going straight or even upwind. It's like Victor's taking off upwind here. And you can see that he's really pulling the sail into his shins and sort of pushing it back. Again, it's a pretty similar feeling to doing a carving 360 with how you're moving the sail, and then leaning in, and then the wind just comes up from the other side. So it's a pretty easy movement and motion to do. Let's find another one. When you're learning them, you want to get a little bit of height. You know, with the forward loops, you can really learn with almost no height, but with the cheese rolls, you want a little bit more height, just to make sure that you get around. Let's see if we've got some more video. So here's a video. This is one kind of on flat water. But you can see just how nice when you get the wind on the other side, the sail rotates, right? So again, he's going kind of upwind and then pulling the sail, or pushing the sail rather, towards the tail of the board. Like, look how much he's forcing the sail towards the tail of the board, and then kind of leaning. He's kind of leaning in front of the mast. I have the feeling that I'm leaning towards the tail of the board. And again, it's a very similar feeling to that carving 360. So if you're doing carving 360s, it's very similar with how you're leaning your body, how you're positioning the sail. And then the wind just comes up from the other side and just pops it over, which makes it a very nice feeling move. It feels kind of effortless because the wind comes on the other side and just pops everything around. Let's watch one more. This is, I think, with a GoPro. And I'll try and find, so let me make a note of this. Cheese roll. Try and find some of my cheese roll videos. I know I have some. Yeah, so same thing. Again, you can see there's a lot of common themes. So he goes off, kind of goes upwind off the ramp, and then is pulling. So he's getting a bit tweaked, but really pulling the sail, pushing the sail towards the tail, and then coming around. When you get tweaked, it's a little bit more fancy, throwing the body around the mast, but the basic principle is there. It's the same. Jeff, do you think you'll be working on cheese rolls while you're in South Africa? If you are, I know some people that could video, probably, maybe, and you could get some footage, or maybe you have your own GoPros. But I think getting footage from the beach is also really helpful, especially for learning jumps like this. So let me know. I'll think about it. I mean, I definitely know some people who film down there. I don't know what their schedules are like now, but I'll send you some contacts. Let's see if we can get some footage, get you working on the cheese rolls. Ryan posted this video. This is going for a forward. Ouch. Yeah, that's a hard landing. So what I'd like to see here, if you're trying to do this with more control, is taking off a little bit more downwind, a wider grip on the boom, and then really looking back over that rear shoulder and not letting the body come so far forward. So you're really pulling against the rig. But good effort, good effort. All right, we've already talked about these things. Did we talk about this footage? Nicolas? Yeah, Jeff, it would be great. It'd be cool to see you learn cheese rolls. I think your ability is there. Um, can you do carving 360s? So, did we talk about this video last week? That's the question. I don't think we did, so I'll talk about it again. So in this picture, you can hang a bit more from the boom. You don't want to be so close to the boom. So Jeff, you might want to try some carving 360s going out, and I think you have the level to do that. And it's nice in Cape Town. You can do it on the waves, on the wave faces. I can do a little video about that too. Well, I'm making a lot of work for myself. Carving 360. But this is great. Okay, Nicolas, and it's great that you're here. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go through the photos, and then we'll go through the video. Perfect. So I like this. You're creating some space. You're hanging from the boom. What I want to see is more pressure on the heels. A little bit more pressure on the heels to get that rail engaged. And then you can keep, when you have the pressure on the heels, then it's easier to keep that weight low and really sink down to get the board carving. But let's watch the video, and we'll go from there. So I like how, cheers, Dom Dom, see you next week. Thank you for all the work you do. Dom Dom, for everyone who doesn't know, helps put together all the histories, so he's the official historian from the group. All right, so this wave, Nicolas, nice flow. I like how active you are. It's hard to see what's going on behind you. It feels like you're a bit early on the wave. I feel like behind you is there's more power in the wave. Where you are is not breaking. Cheers, Carl. As much. So that would be the main tip. But again, it's hard from the angle because I can't really see what's happening. All right, let's see. This is the second wave. I like what you're doing with the sail movements. You know, you're pushing the sail forward. You've got your hands back. You know, then you bring your backhand forward, getting that S with your arm. Again, very active. So my main comment is I feel like you could be deeper on the wave. So like when we get a little glance up the line, for example here, for this little split second that you're looking upwind, it looks like there's some nice power in the wave over here. It's steeper. And I think that your turns will be a lot more effective if you're closer to that power section on the wave, closer to that steep part of the wave. Now I noticed there is a bit of white water there, but it looks like the wave is not really breaking. It looks like you could have been still higher up on the wave. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're in the chat, so Nicolas, tell me, am I wrong? Am I right? Could you have been more upwind? Have you tried to sail more upwind? Because having more power pushing against you from the wave allows you to do a lot more. It gives you more speed. It allows you to lean on the equipment more. It allows you to be on the rail more. So being on that critical part of the wave makes it a lot easier. You know, the board is working better. That's what where the board is designed to be. So that's the main tip there. All right. So here it looks like you are a little bit more deep, right? So if I look at the beach as a reference, on the other clips, I think you are a little bit more downwind, if I'm correct. So this one, it looks like you are more upwind. Am I right about that or not? From the footage, it looks like you are. And I can tell it is a little bit steeper here. And because it's steeper, look at this dynamic turn that you get. Look at the power in this turn. I can really see you're able to carve. So am I right? With this wave, are you more upwind? Yeah, okay, you are. And so I think the wave is offering a lot, like it's a lot steeper. So if we compare, for example, what the wave looks like through your window here to how it looked in the other waves, there's so much more going on. There's more wall, there's more speed, there's more steepness, and that really allows you to see, like, look at this that you're looking into, whereas the other ones you're really looking at the shoulder. And that allows a lot more dynamicism. You know, here, you know, you can hit this section, and that's maybe a good next step for you. But what you do is also great. You really keep your speed. You do this turn under the lip. You keep your speed, keep your flow. And then you get another turn. And another one coming back to the whitewater. It's like this wave is a great example for the day. You know, one thing, I want to give you a couple points on the wave riding, but just one thing I noticed just right off the bat with the transition, with your jibes, it looks like you're grabbing above the boom. And I think that is destabilizing you, and it's making you fall. And so I would try to go boom to boom or grab below the boom, because I think grabbing up there is a little bit awkward. And the 2 times you do that in this footage, it looks like you lose your balance. So I would try not to do that. All right, so some comments on the wave riding. So one is, okay, I know that there's some rocks up here, but it looks like if you can sail just a little bit higher up, you perform a lot better. And I think it's better to sail higher up where the wave is steeper and go earlier so that you don't have risk, than to sail farther down. So, you know, there's maybe a way that you can sail up here that you don't have the fear of the rocks as much, because you're not aiming for the lip and you feel like maybe you're not going to fall. But even if you're doing face turns like you are in this picture, this part of the wave offers you so much more, and it makes it a lot easier. And again, this is where your board is designed to work. Your board is not designed to do turns on flat water or flat sections. So coming back to the fundamentals, you want the placement on the wave, the selection on the wave is so important, timing on the wave. And this really comes down to placement and timing. So if you can sail in this part of the wave, you're going to be sailing better. I mean, this wave, you know, this is all the same day, and this wave is 10 times better than the other waves. And it's a lot to do with just where you are on the wave. You know, your ability hasn't changed between these clips, but where you are on the wave has changed. And you can see that what you're doing is really affected by where you are on the wave. So if you can sail on this other part of the wave in a way that then you're not thinking about the rocks, so if you're going a little bit earlier or whatever else, whatever you need to do, you're going to see a bigger improvement in your sailing. And so that's, I think, the number one thing to work on. All right. Next up, again, you're getting some good sail movement. I think you can hang a bit lower on your cutbacks. So try to really kind of hang a bit from the boom and sink your weight onto the heels of your board, or onto your heels, so that you get that heel side of your board engaged in the water. But you know, this wave, you can see things are really working well for you, and it's a lot to do with the placement, where you are on the wave. All right. Yeah, so just trying to get more heel involvement. So rather than having the board kind of flat. So one thing you really want to think about is turning the board like this, not like this. Does that make sense? You want to always be turning the board rail to rail rather than side to side. So I think that's a big thing that you can do that will improve your sailing. But the biggest thing you can do is to get used to sailing where the wave is steeper. And again, you can go early. You can, there are different things you can do to help with that. And then I don't know how bad the rocks are. What's the spot? What's the name of the spot, Nicola? Let me learn a bit about how the rocks are, because going on the rocks, it's not always as bad as it seems to be. And then second, sometimes even if it seems like you'll go on the rocks, sometimes you won't if you hold onto the gear and you hold onto the gear in the right way when you fall. Now, I don't know if that's the case for where you are here. Okay, so this is in Ibiza. So what's the name of the spot? What's the name of the spot? I've got some friends, I think, that sail. Does Aleix ever sail here? I think I saw some footage from Aleix sailing in Ibiza. I wonder if it's this spot. Anyway, getting the placement on the wave is going to be huge for you, and that'll make a big difference. We already see, in your footage, that when you are farther upwind, where the wave is steeper, you have this great wave ride, where there's a lot of power, a lot of dynamicism in your turns, a lot of good flow. All right, yeah, I'll talk with Aleix to see if there's any other insight, just so I can learn more about the spot, which can help me give you some advice. Yeah, so I think the heel engagement and then sailing farther upwind and getting comfortable with that section are going to make big differences for you. And going a bit early, just sort of gradually working up to it, I think will help you get there. So you can see here, on this wave where you're sailing, where it's more dynamic, it doesn't really look like you're at risk of falling. You're doing your turns on the face, you're staying away from the lip of the wave. It looks safe, but also dynamic. You've got great flow. And so I would try to think of this wave as what you want to be doing when you're on the water there at this spot. And so you're not going too radical, so you don't have to worry about the rocks, but still riding in this position where the wave has more energy. Because at the end of the day, riding waves is about capturing energy, and the boards are designed to work by picking up the energy of the waves and the wind and transferring that into speed. And if you're sailing where the wave isn't pushing very much, the board isn't going to work as well. All right, we already went through these pictures from Hans, and I think that's it. We're caught up. Wow. All right, good job, everyone. That was a solid power hour. You guys gave me some homework. I've got some homework to do, these videos. I don't know if I'll be able to get all of them done, but I'll definitely try to get some of them done before Sunday. And yeah, for anyone else that we talked about, like Jeff, you can follow up with me privately to see if we can get someone to film you, and then post some stuff in the group about learning cheese rolls. And yeah, cool. That sounds great, everyone. I think I'm gonna sign off. I hope you guys have a windy week. If you want anything specific from me, let me know. I'm catching up on work. I'm in Hamburg. There's no sailing for me this week, so I'm catching up on things. I'm almost caught up on the things that I was not able to do when I was in France, and so I've got a little bit of time I could work on some other videos. So I think we have a list of requests somewhere, but it's always good for me to know what you guys want to learn. So if you have some requests, let me know, and I can try and do some YouTube content, some just videos to help. All right, everyone. See you in the group during the week. I love the discussion that's going on. We've got some great posts, great questions, great answers. I love to see it. I love the collective wisdom that exists in this group. You guys have so much wonderful things to say to help everyone else in the community. I love to see it. Thank you very much. Have a great week. and I'll see you next week, Sunday. All right, I'm signing off. Take care. And again, requests, throw them in the group, and I'll see what I can get done before Sunday. All right, take care, everyone, and signing off.